Welcome to the Perfect Ride series. Today we are here to check out the Radrunner Plus. Now this is not a new bike, it's been around for about 4 years at this point, going on 5, and there are some features here that do seem like they were top notch in 2020, but does it stack up to the 2024 standards that we're seeing a lot of e-bike companies put out? That is one of the questions we're going to answer in today's review. But before we get into the review, I did want to mention that Rad did send us this bike for free. However, they are not paying for this review. All the opinions expressed in this video are going to be my own, and really it's not a whole lot of opinions. We are here to chat about this bike and go over a use case, price point, things like that, to see if it's going to be a good match for you. I am a local bike shop owner here in Houston, Texas, owner at Power On e-bikes. If you're in the Houston area, come check us out. And so I've seen a lot of people come and go, seen a lot of questions, and I've been helping people find the right bike for them for the last 4 years. So what we're gonna do is see if the Radrunner Plus is the right bike for you. That's what we're gonna discuss in today's video. The first and most important question for most folks is gonna be price point. Is the Radrunner Plus in your budget? Right now it is selling for $17.99. Now that does seem a little pricey for a bike that has been in production for 4 years. However, as you can see, there is a lot of bells and whistles here, and we'll go over those in the use case because I think the use case is pretty much spelled out here for you as far as what you would use this bike for. Now, the Radrunner Plus is the next evolution of the Radrunner from Rad Power Bikes, and they really, in my opinion, listened to a lot of the feedback they were getting on the original model and put a lot of thought and effort into what they were going to do on this Plus versions. We've got a larger passenger pad back here that if you're just, rocking one kid, plenty of room here. You could probably fit 2 smaller kids on there, but 1 is probably the recommendation based on the fact that we've only got 1 set of foot pegs. Now the foot pegs here fold out, nice and easy. And one of the things to mention here about Rad, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in the extra section because a lot of this stuff kind of falls under extras when we're talking about e-bikes. It does come with everything you need, unlike most of the other Rad bikes where you're looking at spending another $150, $300 to kind of get all of the passenger carrying accessories you'd want. You pretty much have them all right here. We've got a nice padded cushion here. We got these pegs that fold out. We've got some protection here for small legs. And really, they just built this thing right out of the gate to be able to unbox it, put it together, carry a passenger around. Now, since all those things do come already installed on the bike, it does limit some of the use cases. Now, if you're riding around just by yourself, not too bad. I mean, it handles well, a little bit of a shorter wheelbase here. And so all in all, it could be something where if you drop off your kid at school, it's a nice, easy breezy ride back, where some of those larger cargo bikes might feel like you've got a lot back there, especially the long tail cargo bikes. Now, if you do have a kid on the back, one thing to keep in mind is it does have a 300-pound payload. Now, that is what is written on the website. In my opinion, based on the way they designed this frame and just my experience riding the bike around, it does feel like it could probably handle closer to 350, 400 pounds. But like it states on the website, 300 pounds is what they say is the max load capacity. But again, in my opinion, could probably get away with doing a little bit more. Now, if you do have this thing loaded down to the gills, which again, Rad says is 300 pounds, you would want a lot of power and you'd want a larger battery to be able to handle that capacity. Now, the motor we have here is a 750 watt motor. This is a class 2 bike, meaning that both pedal assist and throttle take you to 20 miles per hour. So you do have the capabilities to haul around extra cargo if you wanted to. As far as weight goes, this is pretty much middle of the pack, especially for this type of bike. The whole thing with the battery installed comes in at about 77 pounds. So not something you necessarily want to haul up a flight of stairs if you're in an apartment or you transport your bike like that. And if you did want to haul around a little extra something, they do have a front basket option. And the Radrunner also has something that's kind of interesting. There's this mid cargo thing that you can get where it mounts here and here, kind of takes away that step over. So if you need the step over, not a great option. But if you don't need the step over, you do have quite a bit of cargo carrying capacity with that option from Rad. The next thing to look at is going to be range. Right now it comes with a 14 amp hour battery, and Rad says there is a claimed range of 45 miles. Now, in my opinion, 14 amp hour battery, especially if you're thinking about loading down with cargo, more realistically is probably 30 to 40 miles for most people. Now, as far as pedal geometry goes, so you do have this seat that you can adjust to get a better pedal geometry, which is one of the reasons why it's maybe a little bit higher than some of the compact frames where they don't really have a good pedal geometry and you're probably going to be using throttle a lot of the time. On this particular bike, if you decide to just use throttle all the time, you're probably looking closer to 25 to 30 miles with that 14 amp hour battery. The next thing to chat about is going to be terrain. Where could you take the Radrunner Plus? And for me, it's most likely going to live on the concrete. asphalt, bike paths, sidewalks, things like that. You do have a little bit of a knob here on the side, nothing super aggressive, but if you do get into some of those, you know, pea gravel or compact gravel trails, shouldn't be a big problem. You probably handle okay off-road, especially because these tires, these are the 20 by 3.3 inch tires, a little bit fatter, gonna give you a little bit more comfort and stability just because there's more air volume in there. And we also have front forks. So these front RST forks here, they've got about 80 millimeters of travel, which is, you know, pretty standard. There are some, especially some of the more like cargo bikes that come with maybe a little bit less, maybe 50, 60. So comparing it to those, the 80 is obviously a little bit better. So in my opinion, would handle itself well in an off-road environment, but definitely it's not gonna be something you take primarily off-road. And again, thinking about the use case, you got somebody back there, you're not gonna be taking them back there because you got suspension up here, there's no suspension in the back for them. You know, we got the 3.3 inch tires, so a little bit more air volume there, so that ride should be fairly comfortable. However, most likely you're gonna be sticking to bike paths and things like that.
What's up everybody, Tyson here from Ride Review. I want to take a quick moment to tell you about Micromobility America. This is a micromobility focused conference that is happening in Southern California on November 14th and 15th this year. Now we are pulling out all the stops and trying to get a lot more dealers and you know, if you're a store owner or maybe a distributor for electric vehicles, I mean, you know, bikes, scooters, skateboards, EUCs, you know, micro cars, anything like that. We want to get you involved at this event. We're going to have representatives from hundreds of manufacturers there. Most of these representatives are going to be, you know, C-level, founders, engineers. So if there's brands that you're interested in, you can, you know, skip the email chains and just go, you know, straight to the people who actually make the decisions and can really tell you what these products are about and why they made them this way. Also at this event, you can expect, you know, we're gonna have networking mixers, we're gonna have after parties, we're gonna have the dealer awards, we're gonna have a Shark Tank style competition where manufacturers can bring in some of their, you know, new and outlandish product ideas, and then the dealers will get a chance to, you know, vet those and rank those, you know, see if they're gonna be good for the market or not. If you guys are interested, please check out the description of the video. You're gonna find a link where you can learn more and get registered. All right, back to the video.
Now the next thing we're gonna chat about is ride feel. So instead of just sitting here and explaining to you how it feels to ride it, I'm gonna send it out to myself for the ride test. What is going on everybody? Today we're out here for the ride test on the Radrunner Plus, which you can see right over here. This is gonna be a very abridged ride test. No, you know, testing out range, anything like that. Basically just gonna give it a ride, see how it handles, and kind of get some first impressions from it. So we'll go ahead and put it in pedal assist level 0. And something that I noticed right off the bat was the fact that the throttle still works in pedal assist level 0. Now, in my opinion, a little bit of a safety thing, it probably would be a little bit better if the throttle didn't work on 0. So that way if somebody's hopping on it for the first time, you know, it is a little bit safer. They're not gonna whiskey throttle it and, you know, end up on YouTube or something like that. One of the things that I do like is even in pedal assist level 1, as we will demonstrate here, our throttle is still gonna go 20 miles per hour. So we do have full access to the power on the throttle here, which is something that I really enjoy. Get up to that 20 miles per hour, as you can see here. So that's something that I think is pretty cool. You know, a lot of bikes will have it in sync with the pedal assist. I don't really like that as much. And it's kind of a safety thing if you think about it. If you were in pedal assist 1, you're just kind of, you know, toting around the park, and then you need to get through an intersection, you see a situation you want to get out of, you have access to that throttle to really, you know, get out there where you need to go. So in my opinion, I think this is the better way to do it. We'll go ahead and check our pedal assist levels in conjunction with their top speeds for riding. Go ahead and shift down here a little bit. Nice easy shifting. We got our Shimano SIS index shifter up here. 7 speeds to choose from. So it looks like pedal assist level 1 is going to be about 9 miles an hour, I would say, for pedal assist level 1. Gotta put in pedal assist level 2. That's gonna take us up to about 11 or 12, I'd say. Go ahead and flip a UE here, and then we'll see what we can get out of 3, 4, and 5. I'm gonna switch hands, do some shifting. All right, so let's go ahead and put it into pedal assist level 3. Now this is a cadence sensor, not a torque sensor. Even if I'm not really putting that much pressure down on it, as long as those pedals are moving, then we still are gonna get some power here. So 3 is taking us up to about 16 or so. 4 is taking us up to about 19 pretty easily. And then putting pedals to cell 5 is gonna get us to our top speed of 20 miles an hour. All right, so let's go ahead and check out now the torque curve here. Our takeoff speed wasn't too much in any of those other pedal assist levels. But once you put it into 5, it's got a lot more giddy up and go here. You know, it reaches 20 fairly reasonable. And again, thinking about what this bike's designed for, you're supposed to have somebody else back here on this passenger seat. So you need something super torquey. You know, you need, I think, just enough to, if you do have it loaded down, you are gonna want the power and the torque to kind of get up to speed. You don't want to bog it down with the extra weight. I feel like it's a pretty good right in the middle here for if you're in pedal level 5. You do have, you know, a decent amount of torque, but it's not gonna kick anybody that's sitting on the back, you know, throw them off or anything like that. So I think that is pretty interesting. Now, as far as nimbleness goes, definitely very nimble as far as a bike go. As far as bikes go. And if you've ridden a 4-inch tire, you'll know that those are usually a little less nimble in some senses because you have so much surface area down there. So, you know, a little bit more grip. They are designed to be more stable, a little bit more comfortable because of that air volume. But these 3.3s, I feel like, have a lot of the benefits of a fat tire while still feeling a little bit more nimble than a traditional 4-inch tire. Now, if you guys have watched any of my videos, you know 3 inches is kind of my favorite tire width, but the 3.3s are pretty nice. I feel like it's just the jumbo oversized, you know? And 3 is kind of like where you start getting to like a fat tire, and then 4 inches, obviously, when somebody says fat tire, we're thinking 4 inches. So the 3.3s, I like those. They ride pretty well on the concrete. Then as you take them off-road, like we're about to do, see how they handle the off-road section. Still feel like I got plenty of grip. I'm not slipping out, which is good because I'm only riding with one hand. And you know, this is some grassy area. If we had some, you know, decent dirt to test it in, we could test that. But I feel like I still get plenty of good grip here. As far as I goes, look at that sunset. That is beautiful. And we're on a pretty nice bike. Again, I go into this a little bit, I think, later on in the review, but this bike is 4 years old. This bike's not, but this design's 4 years old. And it's pretty outstanding to me how well this thing still stacks up with some of those bikes that are coming out in 2024. A couple things, you know, displays have obviously gotten a little bit better. This one does have that USB port in it, so a little bit of an upgrade, especially from what was going on in 2020. We have mechanical brakes instead of hydraulic brakes. Mechanical brakes are fine, but if it were me, you know, something I would switch out pretty quickly is going to be those brakes to a hydraulic brake. But other than that, there's really not too much to complain about as far as the ride feel goes. Shifts well, got the right amount of torque in my opinion for what this bike was designed for. I'm a big fan of BMX bars, so I feel like the handling here is really nice. And just all in all, it's just a nice, easy platform to scoot around on. So I think that's gonna pretty much do it for the ride feel portion. Again, it's not a range test, we're not doing anything crazy. We're just kind of taking it for a spin and seeing what we notice about it. So I will send it back to myself for the rest of the review. The next thing to chat about is gonna be the display. What does it show us? What can we do with it? And right off the bat, you can see we've got our battery bar up here in the top. So it's gonna show us how much battery we've got left. We've got our odometer over here. We're at 3 miles right now. It's gonna show us our current speed. We're not going anywhere right now, so it's gonna say 0. And then our pedal assist level here at the bottom. We've also got this light indicator showing us that our lights are on, and it's gonna show us how much watts we're pulling. And then if we wanna turn the lights on and off, we're gonna press and hold our top button here and our middle button. Press and hold both of those, and then it's gonna turn our lights off. And the last thing to talk about is the fact that we have a USB down here at the bottom. So you gotta plug in something that's, you know, USB, whether it's a phone charger, GPS, something else, Bluetooth speaker. You can plug it in here and use the battery from the bike. The next thing to chat about is safety. Obviously, if you are carrying around precious cargo in the rear, you are gonna wanna know how safe this bike is. So the first thing is we do have mechanical brakes. This is one of those things that probably is a 2020 relic. Most companies, even some of the less expensive brands, especially the direct-to-consumer brands, are going pretty much all hydraulic brakes. Hydraulic brakes are a little bit safer. It's easier to stop. You have more stopping power. So the fact that it has mechanical brakes, a little bit of a ding in my opinion. Not impossible to upgrade these to hydraulic brakes. Probably another 120, 130 bucks. You could do that. But as it comes, it is gonna come with those mechanical brakes still. We do have 180 millimeter rotors. These are Tektro rotors here at the bottom. Tektro handles here up at the top. So all in all, stopping power is not too bad, but it is one of those things that, looking for improvements, definitely would say that, mechanical brakes probably a ding in my opinion. The other ding for me, if you've seen any of my videos, you probably already saw this coming, is the fact that we don't have locking grips here. Now, these leather grips were pretty common back in 2020, but as you can see, they do move a little bit. And since this is our main touch point on the bike, and this is how we're controlling everything, again, thinking we do have that precious cargo in the back, would love to see these swapped out for locking mechanism grips. Now that, again, 25, 30 bucks, you could find pretty much tons of options out there that have at least one locking mechanism. The lock right here, you'll have a half grip on this side because we still have our twist throttle over here. And again, pretty easy upgrade here in my opinion, and would probably be the first upgrade that I would do if I was gonna get this bike. Now the next thing, which is a big deal, and again, the fact that they were doing it in 2020 is pretty impressive. It is completely UL certified. The battery is UL 2271. The whole bike is UL 2849 certified. So for those of you who don't know what that means, UL is a third party that basically verifies the safety standards for all the components that are on these bikes. So they send it off, they spend a lot of money to do so. I mean, it's really like anywhere between like 15 to 35 grand. Some people probably spend a little bit more. It's quite an investment on their side. So the fact that they spent that money to make sure it was safe, they did get that third-party verification. And if you're looking at, e-bike fires or bikes breaking down, and just weird things going on in the industry, most of that is coming from bikes that are not UL certified, right? Those are people that just, they built a bike, they found suppliers, they put it out there in the market, and Rad obviously is not one of those companies. The next thing to chat about is going to be what I would call nighttime safety things, and really that's going to be our lights. So we do have a fairly bright front light here, which is mounted to our front forks, and we can turn that on and off with the keypad as we talked about in the display section. We've also got an integrated rear light that has braking integration. So as we pull these levers to brake, it is going to flash, letting people know that we're coming to a stop. And speaking of flashing, the light here, which is it's kind of an interesting thing, again, thinking they were doing this in 2020, a little bit ahead of its time. If you go to the back, there is a rubber button, you press that, and then the light flashes. So you think of those people who have like running daytime lights or running nighttime lights, usually it's flashing to let people know where they're at. So if you have the lights off, you just have those flashing, and you still have the braking integration, so when you brake, the light becomes solid, letting people know you're braking. And then at night, you can do the exact same thing, and then when you press on the brakes, it's gonna be solid, letting people know that you're stopping. So a couple of cool features here as far as the light goes. Now, in my opinion, if you were gonna be riding this thing at night quite a bit, you might want something that's a little bit brighter or maybe even mounted a little bit higher on there, just because that's kind of where people are used to looking for other cars, headlights, and things like that. However, the way it comes, really not too bad for doing most night riding, in my opinion. The next thing to chat about is gonna be our length. So the total length here, and again, this is a little bit more compact than some of the longer cargo bikes. It's only 71 inches from our front tire to our rear tire. So fairly compact, but doesn't feel too compact, in my opinion. Now, as far as recommended rider height, on the Radrunner website, they rate this for anyone that's 4'11" to 6'2". Now, in my opinion, it's a little too broad. If somebody was coming to the shop and they were 5'2", that'd probably be the last person as far as the shortness goes I would recommend on this bike. And then 6 foot is probably the tallest I would go on this bike as well. And the main reason is the handlebars don't telescope, right? So even if you have this thing jacked up and you have a good inseam, so you got good pedal geometry going on here, it still would be kind of a crunched forward ride if you're at that 6'2". 6 foot's a little bit close to on the edge, but you could probably be fairly comfortable being 6'2" riding this bike. So I would say 5'2" to 6 foot would kind of be my general guidelines as far as who would fit well on this bike. The next measurements are all about you, and those are mainly our step over height and our minimum and maximum seat height. So let's chat about those. For our minimum saddle height, we measure that at 30 inches from the seat to the ground and 26 inches from the seat to the pedal at the lowest point. Our maximum saddle height, we measure that at 41 inches to the ground and then 38 inches from the seat to the pedal at the lowest point. And we've already mentioned it, but it's good to point out here that our step through height here is just 16 inches. So really, it's very easy to step over and step off of it. The next thing to chat about is going to be extras. So extras are anything that just don't come on regular bikes. Now we've mentioned most of those already, but I'm just going to run through those real quick. The fact that we have our passenger pad pre-installed, we don't got to buy anything extra. I think that's pretty interesting. We do have these foot pegs that fold out, and we've also got that protection for little legs down here in the rear wheel. Those are some of the main extras that you notice right off the bat. We've got our integrated lights, which we already talked about, and a USB port here in the display. It does also come with a full set of fenders, which some bikes from some companies don't come with fenders at all. You know, you gotta pay for those extra. I don't know who's buying a bike and not putting fenders on it because, you know, I've ridden around and I'm one of those guys that I don't necessarily love the way that fenders look, but from a usability standpoint, you pretty much gotta have fenders. So it does come with a full set of fenders here as well. Next, we're gonna answer 3 common questions from the web. The first one is, what is the weight capacity of the bike? We've already talked about it because you guys are already informed, but it is 300 pounds. As I mentioned, could probably do a little bit more than that, but that's what's recommended is 300 pounds here. The second question is, can anyone tell me the advantage of having gears? I mean, if you have a throttle, what's the point of gears? Now, at first, I was like, that's an interesting question, but then I really thought about it, I'm like, you know, it is a pretty good question, so I thought we'd answer it here. Now, gears help you when you're pedaling in different situations, like hills, for example. Even though we have a 750 watt motor here, we still might be pedaling up longer, steeper inclines, and being able to put your bike into a nice climbing gear will be helpful in that situation. So if you are just throttling it, you don't even need a chain, right? But if you are in those situations where you do get into like hill climbing, for example, it is nice to be able to throw that into a nice climbing gear and be able to pedal it and assist that bike up the hill. The third question is, can you upgrade for a better seat and seat post easily? So if you wanted to upgrade the seat, you'd also have to swap out the seat post, just is how they designed this saddle. It's a 27.2 millimeter seat post, and so you'd have to swap out the seat post and the saddle at the same time if you wanted to upgrade to a more comfortable version. Because while this saddle does fit really well with the aesthetic of the bike, and obviously since it's flat in the back, goes all the way down, that's kind of nice. It's not necessarily the most comfortable saddle out there, so if you did want to swap it out, you could totally do that, but you also need a new seat post as well. The next question is, what is the buying process like? So if you have watched this video and you're like, you know, this really is checking off a lot of boxes for me, I think I'm gonna pull the trigger on it, how do you go about getting one? Well, you can either buy it from Rad's website, they'll ship it to your house, you can assemble it. The assembly here was pretty easy. I think most people would probably be able to do that, or you can go to a Rad dealer like Power and E-Bikes here in Houston, Texas, and you can walk in, get one that's fully assembled, it's been checked out, test ridden, we go through all the gears, make sure the brakes are good, and all you gotta do is pick it up and take it home. Now, when somebody comes into Power and E-Bikes, usually the last question they have is about warranty and aftermarket service. So here with Rad, they do have a 2-year limited warranty, which covers pretty much most of the stuff you would want a warranty to cover, except for consumables, which would be things like brake pads, tires, tubes, stuff like that. Now, as far as the after-sale service goes, Rad does have a pretty good track record of treating customers fair, right, kind of going above and beyond. And if you check out any of the Facebook owners group, which I recommend, you can see, you know, people's stories, and usually if something goes wrong with the bikes, they'll say, hey, you know, this thing happened to me, here's what Rad did. And so it's a good spot for you to get a good gauge on how they treat their customers, because their customers are usually relaying those experiences. If you do need some warranty work done, Rad has, it's like 1,200, 1,300 places you can go to have that warranty service done. Power and E-Bikes does that for any of our Rad customers. They come in for warranty work. So if you do have an issue that's not, you know, outside of those consumables, if it is something like the controller display, you know, something that's a little bit more robust, then you'd want to take that in for service. And they do have a very large network of dealers. So you can find that on their website. They have a list, they have a locator. And on the locator, I think there's like 3 or 4 different types. There's people that do test rides, people that do warranty and service. There's people that are a retail center. So if you want to go in and, you know, test ride bikes, they have a slot for those people. You just need warranty work. And you can find that all on Rad's website. Well, guys, I think that is going to do it for our Perfect Ride Series review on the Radrunner Plus. Kind of some closing thoughts here. In my opinion, it really does have a lot of the things that you would want in a passenger carrying bike. It has all of the stuff included already. throw a passenger on the back, you got the pegs, you got the protector for the wheels, and a couple of cool things that, again, in 2020, they weren't kind of standard. So we got the USB port, we've got the integrated lights. They really are doing a lot of things right there. In my opinion, if you are gonna buy one of these bikes, I would definitely look at replacing the grips. I think it's probably the first thing, like I said, I would switch out. And then I would look to upgrade this thing to hydraulic brakes. And then after that, wouldn't really have much to complain about. I think that it's a well-rounded bike, got good geometry to it, very nimble, it's easy to control when you're riding this thing around. So all in all, it is a really solid bike for the price. And honestly, after the 4 years, I think it is still holding up really, really well to the competition. Thank you guys so much for riding along with us, and we've got more of these reviews. I mean, I got 15, 16 bikes lined up, so we are gonna be pumping out these videos as quick as possible. So stay tuned, subscribe for more, and we'll catch you on the next one.